Welcome back! I am literally saying this to myself because I am finally back behind my microphone after almost 2 months of absence traveling in Asia. And I have to admit, I did not take my big microphone. I did do a few recordings while on the go. This is the benefit of having small travel microphones. So I will share some thoughts from that with you as well. But for now, welcome back. I am so glad you're here. And I mean that not as just a formality, but as something I genuinely want you to feel as you settle in, because the fact that you showed up for this, that you pressed play, that you carved out this pocket of time in what I imagine is a full and busy day, busy life, that already says something about you. It says that you're someone who takes themselves seriously, someone who is at some level ready. Ready for what exactly? That's what we're going to find out together. Today's episode is a guided meditation, and before we drop into it, I want to take just a few minutes to tell you what's waiting for you on the other side of this, what we're actually doing here, and why I think it might matter more than it looks like from the outside. Here's the thing about making decisions, especially the big ones. The ones that require you to invest in yourself, to step into something new, to trust someone or something you haven't fully tested yet. On the surface, those decisions look like they're about logic, about weighing pros and cons, about information, about logic matters. Of course it does. But if logic were all it took, most of us would have already made the moves we keep thinking about making. We'd have already said yes to the things we genuinely want. And yet something holds us back. Something more quiet, something older, something that lives not in your thinking mind, but somewhere deeper. That something has a different name. Sometimes it calls itself, I don't have time for this right now. Or sometimes it says, I'm not sure if I can afford this. Sometimes it's the voice that whispers in your ear, what if it doesn't work? Or what if I get it wrong? Or what if I put my trust in the wrong place? And this is not a weakness. They're not flaws in your character or evidence that you're somehow broken. They are, if anything, signs that you're paying attention, that you care enough about your own life to be careful with it. But careful and stuck are two different things here. And to be honest, careful has not gotten you to where you want to go yet, has it? So today, we're going to explore the space between those two. So in the meditation, we're going to move through 5 territories, 5 of the most common inner landscapes that shape that moment between seeing something you want and actually moving toward it. Whether that's time or money, fear, trust, the deepest layers that are underneath all of that, which actually is your relationship with your own feeling of being ready. We're not going to fight these forces. We're trying to go do something more interesting, to understand them well enough that they stop being walls and start becoming doorways, that we can flow alongside with it, that we can floor despite it. Now, a word about how to get the most from what's coming. This meditation works best when you let it be an experience experience rather than an exercise. And let it be an experience without holding any expectations, which means try not to evaluate it while it's happening. Try not to sit with your arms crossed. Decide whether you agree with it. Just let it land. Like all the words, let it form images. Let your body respond naturally to what it responds to, and notice all of that without judgment. I know this may take a few runs as well. If you're new to the podcast, if you're new to meditation, give it a couple of times to try this. But for now, find a comfortable position, let your eyes close when they're ready, and trust even just a little, even just for the next roughly 20 minutes, that something worthwhile is on its way to you. Once again, welcome to Who I Am, your guided meditation podcast for a strong mind, balance, and bold moves. My name is Jackie, and I can't wait to guide you through this process today. Let's begin. Have you ever been to a point where you really wanted something and you were about to begin? If only you had more time. And for a moment, I want you to simply notice how often your days become filled with responsibilities, expectations, unfinished tasks, emotional labor, and constant mental movement that leaves very little for your own becoming. Over time, life can begin to feel like maintenance. So we become a manager of our own life instead of a creator. You wake up already responding to all the input, already managing and, carrying forward what hasn't been done yesterday. And somewhere beneath all of that movement, there are your dreams, your ideas, all your needs, even because you put these aside as well, let's be honest, and all your desires that are sort of waiting to be up on the priority list. They're waiting for your attention. As you breathe, imagine your life as this large landscape, and within this landscape, there are areas that receive constant care. And if it's not a landscape, let it be your backyard, your garden, your veggie patch. So there are some areas that are constantly receiving care and energy and sunlight simply because survival and responsibility demand it. So there are these plants that seem like they'll be dying soon. And some other areas, they sort of get left behind. And then these untouched spaces within you represent growth, creativity, healing, expansion. And these spaces have been waiting patiently for your nourishment, but they just can't make it up on the priority list. So what if time is not only something that disappears, but also something that plants? What if every moment you intentionally give to yourself becomes like a little seed for the life you want to grow into? As you sit here now, allow yourself to feel the difference between spending time and investing time. Because one drains while the other one slowly builds a future that begins to support you back. And perhaps part of moving forward begins when realizing that your inner life deserves dedicated space inside the life you've been working so hard to maintain. Some of my coaching clients, and I'm inviting you into this little story of theirs just to give you example of the experience that I've made in my own life, but also in the lives of people that I work with, is that some of them have spent years giving all their energy outward so consistently that choosing themselves starts to feel weird, starts to feel like it's something they would have to justify. And this feeling of unfamiliarity can create tension inside them, even when something has the power to help them grow. And maybe this counts for you as well. As you continue breathing slowly, deeply, imagine yourself holding like your own flame in your hands. This fire, this spark inside you. This fire represents your potential and your well-being, the future energy. And just like any fire, it responds to care. So it responds to your attention, your nourishment in every area of life. Growth, in order to grow, you need to invest first. So whether that's your relationship, deepening your relationship, skills that you want to strengthen, or health that you want to improve, it all needs some kind of investment. None of this is given to you. And yet when it comes to ourselves, many of my clients, and myself included, hesitate at the exact moment where it's all about being invited to deepen, support, expansion, and transformation. So as you hold your fire in your imagination, like holding it in your hands right there in front of you, if you will, you can place your small finger and your thumb together and then open the 3 other fingers to the sides, like a little flower or a fire basket. And allow yourself to consider the possibility that investing in yourself really is an act of taking leadership for your life. Every time you choose growth, support, healing, learning, or guidance, you are communicated something powerful to yourself, to the universe. My life matters enough to care for consciously. And as that message begins to settle not only within yourself, within your body, but it also settles in the transfer to the universe, notice how the fire begins to grow steadier. It becomes warmer, brighter in your hands. And then take a deep inhalation and exhale. Always come back to aligning your mind with your body through your breath. Deep inhale. Long exhale. We know that part of what holds us back from moving into action is fear. And many people interpret fear as a warning that they should stay exactly where they are, even when staying has already become exhausting, and it continues to be more and more exhausting. The fear is keeping us where we are. It keeps us stagnant and in freeze mode because we fear of moving in the wrong direction or failing on the right direction, like on the right path, or fearing if we move into that direction, other people might judge us because we change. And people, generally speaking, don't like change in the first place. So be ready right here to experience that fear differently, to transcend that fear. Imagine yourself standing at the beginning of this new path. Remember what it is that you want to achieve. Remember where it is you want to go. And so you're standing right there at the beginning of the path, aware that stepping forward may change something important inside yourself. Again, breathe deeply. Change is part of all of this. You feel your heart beating faster. And you feel your senses becoming sharper right there. Breathe deeply. Your body starts to fill with energy because what you want to achieve has emotional value to you. That is why you fear. If you didn't fear, it wouldn't be important to you. And instead of seeing this activation as something working against you, the fear building up in your body, begin seeing it as your system preparing for the movement. Have you ever sat on a plane and the plane is starting to roll towards the runway? This is literally a moment that I've experienced just a few days ago. So as we're approaching the runway, I was sitting in my seat on the plane, buckled up, ready to go, had some music in my ears, and it was actually the way back from Asia, so I had a bit of mixed feelings, and I was sitting on that plane, and we weren't moving yet, but the plane started to shake, like you could feel that the engines would start to move, and the pilot was preparing the plane to shoot forward on the runway for us to lift up in the air. And so the plane started to shake. And this is the motion. This is the fear and the energy that is building up inside you, because you know once you get started, you can't be stopped. The decision of getting started oftentimes is the most important move that you're making. Of course, after that comes the consistent action to get where you want to go. But like the first move is what frightens us the most. And so imagine yourself sitting on that plane and you feel the shaking, you feel the motion for the plane starting to start the engine and really, really boosting up to then shoot forward. This is the motion that's building up in your body. So again, your body understands that something meaningful is happening here. Your awareness lifts up because you care. Your emotions intensify because this really matters to you. And as you breathe in and out of your nose, imagine yourself taking one step forward onto this path while remaining deeply connected to yourself. So whether that is an unpaved forest track or a runway for you at this point, it doesn't matter. Notice how strength begins to grow through that movement. If you've been waiting for the confidence to make that step forward, don't wait any longer, because trust me, it is not coming before you start moving. Same as with the motivation to go to the gym, it never comes before you actually make the first move. Very rarely, oftentimes the motivation and the confidence, they start building once you get your body into movement. It builds throughout the process, through lived experience, where you discover that you can meet your uncertainty without abandoning yourself. And with every step you take, your nervous system learns that growth and safety, they can exist together. Now, we've talked about time holding us back. And we've also talked about fears, different types of fears that are holding us back. The next territory that I'd like to talk about with you is trust. Because trust is deeply connected to the action. Not only trust in other people, but trust in your own ability to navigate experiences and make decisions, to recognize what feels aligned and care for yourself along that way. And like with so many other trust-related issues, I want to say, this often builds from past lived experiences. So we create hesitations within ourselves based on experiences we've made in the past. As a yoga teacher, I've been trying to get deeper into the practice of handstands. So I've been watching videos and I've taken on a few trainings. And in the beginning, something inside me was so hesitant, but it was a skill that I wanted to develop for myself. And I remembered that when I was younger, I was in acrobatics. So I was like, I don't even know, 6 years, maybe a little bit older. And I loved doing all the handstands and the cartwheels. It was so fun, so joyful. I loved doing it when I was younger. And then one day I was at my parents' house where we all lived, and I was doing handstands in the living room. It was a wooden floor. And then in this one moment where I'm guessing I did not pay enough attention, or maybe I was distracted by something that was happening in the living room, I sort of fell backwards on my back, like heavily on my back. There was no chance for me to catch myself with the hands and like the movements that you can do in handstands to catch yourself when you feel you're falling. And so I fell, boom, on my back. It hurt massively. I felt like I couldn't breathe for a moment. And actually this event of me falling on my back and feeling like I can't breathe kept repeating over the years. So I think by the age of 12 or 13, I was out with roller skates, and I sort of raced down a staircase by accident and then fell with my back on the staircase. And again, I laid there like I couldn't breathe. And something in my subconscious mind kind of saved that memory of falling, of not being able to hold myself or catch myself, and as a result being in pain and not being able to breathe. And so as I was going into this handstand practice, I started to realize that strength, coordination, and balance weren't my issue, because for some reason I kept trying, and I just couldn't get to that point where I could feel I'm safely holding myself in the handstands without help, without the wall. And I tried to understand how come like I couldn't get there, until I realized that subconsciously my mind had this memory saved of me falling. So my brain really just wanted to protect me from this event to happen again, trying to hold me back. And so I would never really lean into the handstand properly. I would never really push myself up, like consciously and confidently pushing myself into the handstands. And like, you have to sort of lean into it to a certain extent to really stand tall and safe and confident. So my brain was trying to protect me. Based on that experience, my issue wasn't really to start in that moment, but to really go into it and to take all the steps and sort of overcome this memory that was saved in my brain. And this is quite similar to the hesitation and the not trusting, same as I didn't trust in my own body and my capabilities for really leaning into this. Oftentimes, trust is sort of holding us back because of a past experience that has saved in our minds, despite the fact that this may be a long time ago. Like me, I was a child. So as I'm a grown-up now, an adult, and my body has evolved and my strength and my training over the years has looked a lot different, right? We still think that we cannot trust ourselves enough, or maybe we can't trust another person based on this negative experience in the past. This often results in questioning ourselves, or doubting our own instincts, or protecting our own energy a little too carefully in this moment. because we haven't processed or we haven't healed this part of ourselves that has saved this memory. And yet, even now, there is so much wisdom inside you that has carried you through a very difficult season you have already survived. As you place one foot in front of the other right there, perhaps also take your hands and place them on your chest, just very gently, and feel the rhythm of your heartbeat. You are still walking along your path, your runway. Remember that your body has moved through uncertainty before. And you have learned and you have adapted and you have continued. Hell, when you started trying to walk as a baby, you didn't give up on the first moment of falling. You got back up and you tried again, and you took example from the people around you that already knew how to and that were already doing it, and you kept trying. If somebody else had told you in that moment to stop trying, you wouldn't have stopped either. You would have kept going. And perhaps trust is not about having complete certainty before you move forward. Perhaps trust grows through developing a deeper relationship with yourself while you move. A relationship where you listen inwardly and you respond honestly, 100% honestly. Where you recognize your own needs, your own limits, your desires, and that intuition with increasing clarity. And from that place, decisions begin to feel different. Less like falling and more like taking single steps. From here, picture yourself sometime in the future after you finally decided to move toward that life and the change and the support or the opportunity that at some point before felt so intimidating to you. Notice the version of you who no longer spends endless energy standing still in that inner conflict of yours. Notice how much energy becomes available once you started getting into the movement, into the action, like before, placing one foot in front of each other. This future version of you begins to understand that only the action can create that momentum, and that the momentum creates the self-trust. And self-trust then changes the way you walk through the world. As you look to this future version of yourself, take notice of the steadiness in your own presence. Breathe deeply. The clarity in your eyes. And while you breathe, you can see your own eyes like looking in the mirror. Breathe through the nose, in and out. And the relationship that you now have with yourself. No longer waiting endlessly for perfect certainty, for the perfect moment before you begin. You understand that transformation happens as you start participating, as you start becoming the main character of your life rather than just the best friend, through one courageous decision. And that decision is so important. It makes the difference from the people that are action takers to the ones that stay in freeze mode. Because making the decision and committing to it without looking back, taking constant action, is what's going to get you forward. Through the moments where you over and over again constantly choose, I am ready to move with my life instead of only thinking about it. And as this future version of you reaches toward you now, imagine passing strength back into your hands. A reminder that the life you want to create begins through the decision you're willing to make today. And from today on, again, over and over, every single day. Inhale deeply. Align your mind with your heart through your exhalation. Notice how your breathing becomes more steady. Notice the space that has opened inside your mind and around yourself. Notice how differently action can feel once fear, hesitation, the time, the investment, and the trust are understood with your compassion instead of you judging yourself. You do not need to force yourself into this transformation. You can move through that alignment and the self-trust. You can build the momentum through small, courageous steps that honor the life waiting for you on the other side of that hesitation. As you take one final deep breath here, one last time, allow yourself to feel connected to the version of you that is ready to move forward now. With that clarity, with that courage, and the deep commitment to the life that you truly want to live. I send you all my love and light. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for trusting me, for trusting yourself. And now with that momentum, perhaps it's time to take the first move right now. One more thing before you head off. If you have any questions or you would like to get in touch, learn more and grow more, check out my website whoiam-official.com or send me a message at healwithjackie. You can find me on Instagram. I would absolutely love to get to know you and work with you. So, see you there.